All right, that is doing.
Okay, great. So good luck, and maybe you can pass on the sort of do the same sort of transfer to the other people we've added as well, and have a good meeting.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Bye.
Howdy. All right.
Hey, hey. Um,
Let's
I
see.
guess it's just us.
Yeah, I'm trying to open GitHub right now. Let's see. Application.
Who was saying they missed it last time?
What was that?
Some
Mm,
yeah,
I'm
someone
just
did say
looking at,
they.
I think it was
Sorry, Tim.
Trent.
Copy from here. Just move that. Okay. Evidently, I'm supposed to take notes, and I don't know where I'm supposed to do that at.
Is it just in the GitHub issue?
I think that's where I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe I'm thinking of another meeting. Who's the one that has a Google Doc where you
Oh,
put your
minutes
names?
doc. There we go. I got it. Okay. Recording. All right, fine. That's correct. Minutes doc is this thing. Uh, okay. Anyway, it looks like there's a couple things on the agenda. First one being this async hooks test to use async local store. Anybody looked at that?
No, I have no context about like the kind of testing for async hooks. So
Uh, let's see. It looks like uh Gerhard and Stephen were talking about that one, neither of which are here, so we can skip that one. All right. I'm just going to put right. Um, and now we have import in the middle with a few issues. Any ideas on what we want with that?
yeah, so I mean maybe we can help share my screen so we can just go through these. Um,
And you get to reboot soon.
is it you can see the browser, right?
I can see a terminal. Ghosty.
Okay. Oops.
There we go.
Sweet. Um, so I think with experimental strip types, uh, somebody just wrote in that using it alongside import in the middle failed.
Mhm.
Um, and this is now available to everyone with uh, Node 24, right? They GA'd it.
Be back to 20, I think.
Oh, okay, they backported it back to 20.
I'm
Um,
not too sure. I haven't followed it because I don't follow TypeScript.
So the question here is if this is something we should think about trying to solve right now. It probably means we have to switch our parser so that we can support something that can parse TypeScript. Um, or we just wait till kind of the orchestrion work is done, um, and we just say this will never work with import in the middle.
Do we not potentially have some of the same issues? What I don't understand with the strip types is where does the type stripping happen? Yeah, I don't know when it happens. I kind of would have expected it to happen before the loader hooks. I My guess is that they've implemented it like as a loader hook. which they
I thought
add
so.
to the list of hooks. But it sounds like maybe they add it to the end of the hooks. And input in the middle is ending up before. But I'd have to look at the code and see how it works. Maybe, I suppose we just need to make sure that it's getting converted where it should get converted, because all these hooks don't really want to have to deal with TypeScript, ideally.
I would think not.
Yeah, I guess if we can make sure that import in the middle runs, um, or like we run in the correct order, it's not a problem. Uh, so I'm trying to wonder if there's like any other thing that would cause us issues still, though.
I think it's probably going to cause issues with all sorts of loader hooks that just don't expect to see TypeScript. And I suppose the issue stands with, what happens with it's just very confusing to me how it's passing TypeScript to the loader hook. It might be a bug. Who do we ask?
I think Marco did that one.
Uh,
I'll open an issue in the node repository, not specifically around this issue, but just say that TypeScript's getting passed to the loader hook. Is there any way to have the TypeScript, not the TypeScript, have the transpiling from TypeScript before it hits loader hook, or is this intentional? So I'll open an issue to get some eyes on that.
okay, cool. I think that's
And
like a reasonable next step.
yeah, and I would approach it from your original comment, Tim, about whether or not this would affect Orchestrion, because in my opinion, we should just we should just say, look, this module does not work.
Yeah, I think Abby said that at the bottom of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for us to bring this up because, like you said, Tim, there's probably other loaders that will might get unexpected behavior with this. So we should at least ask about this for the other kind of loader use cases. Um, and I mean, who knows? Maybe even with Orchestrion, we'll run into kind of ordering issues that we need to get resolved.
Right.
Cool. Okay. The next one was this, which has an open PR. Um, and I said this was also related to this issue, which is a colleague of mine opened up. Um, and so essentially there's this case in import in the middle right here, where as the hook gets called, um, if the base directory ends with the file name, we like uh, short circuit
Right.
the operation here. And that breaks uh, a bunch of npm modules, I guess, but the the one here is this model context provider one, which uses like this subpath here. Um, Tim's fix here was to just get rid of this
Mhm.
else condition, but I'm not quite sure all of the consequences of the change. So, Tim, if you want to talk about this more.
Yeah, the CI is actually failing because I think it's OpenAI. The OpenAI modules have broken all of our tests, so the test failures are completely unrelated. There's one test in the test cases that tests this exact feature and tests that it doesn't. I think the feature is just submodule paths isn't working, and it works on require in the middle.
Uh,
we're not really sure why why that continue case was added. It's been there. The PR where it was introduced says matching the API of require in the middle.
oh, I was thinking that maybe I introduced it. Sounds like I
No,
probably would have done it for
I
OpenAI.
think yeah, I think it was Brian a long time ago. It
Hmm.
was yeah, it's a big PR that says make the API the same as import in the middle, require in the middle, but this line definitely stops it behaving like require in the middle.
Yeah, I saw your PR and that it was failing, so I was just basically ignoring it until you got it to a state that you were accepting
Yeah,
it.
the PR has one change apart from obviously being broken by OpenAI. It's got one change where it inverts the assertion logic because there's a test that tests does this not work, and taking this line out means it now does work. I don't think we don't think it's actually going to because it's enabling a feature that wasn't working before. We don't think it's actually going to have the main impact it will have is that it will the callbacks will be called for more files. The callbacks will be called for submodule paths potentially. Yeah, this needs more thought. It looks like I'm
Yeah,
just thinking about it right now.
no, that's fair. It was actually, I guess, a little surprising to me that uh I guess the like we force or like we can only patch what's in package.json exports, um, which I feel like is not the behavior that we want.
Yeah,
Um,
part of the problem is the import in the middle works off what the specifier is of the import. So the paths kind of don't matter to a certain extent. There is some resolution done for absolute paths. Absolute paths work. Relative stuff is just a bit scary, really.
Hmm.
so what do we
Okay.
want to what are we trying to decide right now?
I suppose, do we want to support, should import in the middle behave like require in the middle? And I would suggest probably, even at this late stage, it's better if it does support the same things. There's loads of open telemetry instrumentations where they use the same, they use the same, what should I call it? The same instrumentations. They do the same things to the exports, no matter whether it's ESM or CGS, and they just expect it to work. There's actually an open issue with OpenTelemetry for they found a load of instrumentations that don't work in ESM for various reasons. Um, I'll have to look through them actually. Maybe some of these are related, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I'm not
cool
sure.
with it. I mean, if you want to put in the work to make it work that way, works for me.
I suppose we just need to have an idea of the impact because it's not technically a breaking change. We're making it work how it should have done all along. And it's not a change that will make things stop working. It's more we want to assess the rest of the impact to make sure it's not going to cause problems.
I mean, there's like two approaches here for how we can like test this more safely. We do have some pretty good test suites, I guess, in with Sentry, but and also in OpenTelemetry, so we can test with those and just make sure everything is good. Test suite in this repo also isn't that bad. The other way, like how we did it for what's the feature called when we added like the conditional um here the includes is that we can just make an opt-in to start, so we can flag it. Then whichever vendor wants to try using it can do it. test it out. And if it works in like the next um, like minor, we can turn it on by default.
Sounds
The
good.
flag the flag seems pretty safe for me. Like we can just change this PR to flag it, and then we can test it with Sentry stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like we raised this use case because the MCP instrumentation is pretty important to us. So um, I think that's reasonable. I can write a comment about that.
Yeah, from my perspective, as long as the tests that currently exist continue to work and the new functionality works as designed, merge it.
I will also get on and try and fix this OpenAI CI thing. They've added a load of side effects.
Great.
I was tempted actually just to pin the OpenAI version because although we added those tests to show that import in the middle would work with OpenAI, I'm not sure we're just creating a continuous list of issues and blockers whenever we will try and make any changes.
Oh no, I think it's a treadmill.
I mean, it is generally, I think all of us know that OpenAI just doesn't work. So, like we could also just say, I'd be fine to remove the test or hard pin it to a certain dependency and then just say, maybe in the README itself, like, hey, we know that this package just doesn't work that well. Um,
I'm also cool with that.
Or they regularly change the weird things they're doing.
it's because it's all like auto-generated, right? So, um, I assume that's what's like just causing like the ton of friction every minor basically.
I think it's a combination of that and them just not knowing what they want out there in the wild.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, cool. So this PR got a bunch of approvals. It's been around, I guess, since last year, but we just said we would talk about it in this meeting. I think because you James asked for feedback from Stephen or
Yeah, but
Brian.
I think that got resolved, right? Scroll down a little bit. Oh, Card said he's fine with it, and that's good enough for me. So I hit approve on it after that.
Okay, cool. Um, anything else we need
I'm
to discuss or?
I'm almost this PR, I'm almost not sure whether it's the right solution. It fixes the problem in that what does it do? It just ignores, it doesn't wrap things with invalid identifiers. I think there's technically a way to support this on versions of Node that support these identifiers. I think it's older versions don't support some of these characters or some of these identifiers. It's almost, yeah, maybe it's just good enough.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is very different from Brian's in that if it's an old version of Node that's not current LTS, I don't care about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the tests go way back, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, like this won't like break older versions though, right?
No, this it only impacts libraries that export CJS with like weird string identifiers that can't be converted directly to a variable name. You can technically export these in ESM if you export in newer versions of Node by doing export and then as and then giving, but there aren't many libraries with these invalid identifiers. not invalid, these identifiers that are causing problems. But if we don't wrap them, then that only impacts if someone wants to instrument that poorly named export, which I think is quite niche. We just shouldn't really worry about it.
Did
Yeah.
this does this PR issue a like process warning if it skips a thing?
I think probably not.
So
But
I think that would be my only suggestion for merging this is when it skips such a module, it should issue a process warning to say, hey, look, we don't know what to do with this thing.
yeah,
Or I guess it does throw that error. I guess either
Uh,
way is fine.
I think that error is then caught further up and will end up in the warnings.
Okay, so cool.
Yeah, I think we could probably merge this. It impacts just a handful of those weird old modules that do strange things.
hmm Okay, that sounds
All
good
right.
to me. Uh, so that was everything in the agenda itself.
Yep.
Anything else people want to bring up? Um, feel free to
I,
also share your screen.
I've been looking at the reporting API. I was talking to Abby about this earlier. It used to be a part of an external native module called Node Report, I think, and it was brought into the Node API, I think 7 years ago. And it lets you enable reports for fatal errors, uncaught exceptions, and you can send a signal. There it is.
Uh, so this was brought in how much old? I guess
History.
Node
Yeah,
12.
it captures stack traces. Um,
And it has to be
uh,
written to a file, right?
or yeah, or out to the console.
hmm
But one of the things we were looking, I was thinking about using it to capture um, stack traces for if the event loop is blocked by some synchronous task that's too long. The problem is that when they copied it across from the native module, they didn't give it a way to capture the stack trace of the main thread. It captures beautiful stack traces for the work for workers, but the original native module started a watchdog thread, which could then interrupt and capture stack trace for the main thread. When it was copied across, I think the signal goes through JavaScript, so you can't use it to capture a blocked event loop. And to capture the stack trace from V8, you have to pause the execution. And because all of the processing's been done in the main thread, it can't capture anything of any use from the main thread. So I've started writing an issue actually, just haven't submitted it yet. I'm not sure whether it's a bug with the diagnostic report or just a new feature request, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm having trouble. Like, I suspect that it's done that way on purpose so that it would not interrupt the main thread.
Yeah, I've been trying to look through some of the history and work out why those changes were made. I think it might have been um, I don't know. I'll have to look through.
I might not know enough, but I'm not sure if, like you say that you want to use it to generate a stack trace if the main thread is blocked. I don't know if the main thread is blocked, how would you then be able to do anything?
In this, what was it called? It's in the node.js or on GitHub. It's called Node Report, and it has there we go. it actually runs what it calls a watchdog thread, which listens for signals from other threads or from other processes, and that watchdog thread can then suspend the.
Okay.
But when it was copied across, they didn't keep the watchdog thread, so it's all working in the main thread, which means it's not.
Yeah, I would just open that issue then.
Yeah,
This is all the thing. Where is the
we're looking for Adam.
API?
Um,
This is like the reporter, right? Does it also create the
yeah, I think it's in the index.js in the root.
this I think
That's the
just
API.
directly comes from the
Native
bindings.
module.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, it does create a separate thread in the OS itself.
And it registers a signal handler in the native code, whereas when it's moved to core node, it's the signal handling happens in JavaScript, which means if the main thread is blocked, you don't get the signal till after it, if or when it becomes unblocked.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking would happen when you were describing it. So that makes sense.
Yeah, in this old module, it has, because I was looking and looking at why is it not capturing the stack trace for the main thread, and then I was looking at the V8 code, and it says you have to interrupt or pause the thread to be able to capture the stack trace, which makes sense. And it works for all the worker threads because they can all be there we go, request interrupt.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I'll open an issue for that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like worthwhile for us to learn more about this because there's probably more cool use cases that we can do here. With all of this.
Yeah, well, it would be a lot more, it'd be a lot better than using the debugger.
Yes. So for reference, James, we do some pretty the Sentry does some pretty interesting things with the debugger to try to in production to try to like grab stack traces and other information. Um, but it also means we're using like the inspector API and the debugger, which is not super ideal and a little scary to users.
Mm.
So if we can find a lower overhead, more manageable kind of way to do this, at least for some of the use cases, I think we can't get around the inspector for everything because uh, it is the way to do some things. But for some things, I think it's a good path for us to explore.
Okay.
Sweet. Thanks, Tim. I don't have anything else on my agenda.
Um, yeah, I don't have anything either. I think from New Relic side, we're just kind of blocked, waiting for questions to be answered on the Orchestrion repository to move forward on doing something to get us out of the import in the middle mess.
Um, I mean, we Tim did open some PRs there.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of it is just refactoring some of the enums, YAML things. The WASM changes might be interesting for you all to take a look at though.
Yeah.
They're quite minor, really. They just expose the functions, and then what's it called? Wasm pack and Wasm bind gen, they all just basically generate, because Wasm doesn't have normal like function signatures. You can't pass big strings, or you can't pass. So it's interesting to look at the JavaScript code that it creates to wrap the WASM, because it basically does almost direct memory access into the WASM to pass strings and things like that.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting. I
but
guess this is not checked into the repo, right? You have to run build to see it.
yes, but on the OpenJS Slack, I did send a packed module which does have that code in. But yeah, just these changes and all of the stuff gets auto-generated, which is nice.
Yeah.
I've been opening a few issues on the repository too, because there are what was that one? Those yeah, the improved handling when failing to inject. Currently, if it doesn't match something in the AST, it currently fails silently and still injects the diagnostic channel stuff in the top.
Hmm.
Injecting the diagnostic channel into the top probably isn't a massive issue, and it's depending how the AST walker works, it might not be that simple to stop it from doing it. But failing silently, we probably want some kind of response so we can log, even if it's just logging an error or a warning to say this has failed.
Yeah.
And then the last issue I opened a couple of days ago currently only injects into like named modules with a version range and a path. But there are some open telemetry instrumentations. The only one I could think of at the time is it AWS?
Yeah, so AWS, we can actually take a look at OpenTelemetry, JS contrib. Instrumentation. Yeah, so I think it grabs the file name, and that's what it actually passes into this like abstraction they have over import in the middle.
Hmm.
And this is like an actual like absolute file name based on kind of, yeah, it's an absolute path.
Hmm. Okay.
So that issue was just to track that we might want another way to match to does this file need injecting into?
Yeah, I would suspect that we want to be able to match by um, resolved path. Cool.
Cool. Oh,
All right, guys.
Ben, thanks for the update. Thanks for hopping by, everybody.